and we're so glad to have you here. Now, let's see, I got to do this little pin thing. There we go. Okay, so we did just a little while ago. I think it was call number 329. I could check, but I think it was 320. It was around 329, just a few calls ago. We did a topic on wastewater epidemiology. Actually, we called it, what did we call it? Uh, I know it was stimulated by an article called Sewage Science, and it was something about your poop. And I don't remember exactly the name, but basically, it was how public health officials are using wastewater samples to tell how many, which communities are being affected by opiates, or which communities or which dorms are being affected by COVID, or, who knows what they're testing. But that really perked my interest because I've been to sewage treatment plants and water treatment plants in the process of getting a master's in public health. So, uh, that was enough for me, basically, in that realm. I mean, we talk about the microbiome, we talk about the food coming in, so it kind of followed that we would talk about what comes out. So, that I was ready to leave that alone. And um, I'm amazed at how much medical literature is now um, overlapping into areas that really interest me. So, I mean, now that I'm into natural medicine and alternative medicine, but I, do keep my finger on the pulse. So, let me show you. I think I can show you what came in my mail, my email yesterday. So let's see if I share this screen. So I get this Medscape daily news, um, probably weekly, but I get a lot of publications from this company, and they basically scan what's going on in medicine. They go to the literature, they go to the lectures that are being given, et cetera, and keep us abreast. So the top stories you need to know today, this was yesterday that I received this. So number one top story, smart toilet scans stool for blood and consistency. Like, okay, I've got to read this, right? This Judy Jetson got nothing on us, right? And there are a couple of other articles in here that on this list that also interested me. So that's what we're going to do today. A little bit of a hodgepodge, but inspired by this email that I got yesterday. So let me stop this for a second. I think I'll be going first because I don't see Mr. Hope back in the room. So let me just say I'm so happy that you're all here, and we will just jump into this article. So let's see. Gotta share this screen. All right. So Medscape, family medicine. I am a family physician, so they give us this curated information. So smart toilet with AI, artificial intelligence, automatically scans stool for blood and consistency. Our technology, by automating the image acquisition, so they're taking pictures, removes the burden of having to track your patterns for weeks or months. So here's the thing: information. We've said it on this. I've said it. I don't know if everybody agrees, but this was my experience throughout my medical career. patients lie. Now, that's not every patient, and it's not always nefarious. They're really trying to cover something up, but people forget very quickly how much pain they used to be in, or, what they ate, or the decisions that they made when their last uh, blood test. Well, it's just, they don't always remember correctly. So information provided by patients can have a big impact on decision making. For example, if I'm talking to an individual who suffers from irritable bowel syndrome, I commonly ask them about how loose or watery and hard or formed their stool is, because the information gives me clues as to the underlying problems that may be driving their symptoms. Shin, this was the researcher, agreed it can be challenging for people to know what is important to report to their doctor. Okay, there's another thing. How many times did I say in my career, why didn't you tell me that before? That made all the difference, right? So this tool, this AI toilet, has the potential to relieve the patient burden and facilitate communication between a patient and their clinician. It's a great example of how technology can be leveraged to enhance care. Of course, my mind goes to, well, what else can they do with it? I mean, okay, they're testing our wastewater in the community. They're testing our wastewater in the apartment building or in the dorm. But this is testing what you flush, like your own personal um, flushage. I just made that up. So, working behind the scenes, together with gastroenterologist Deborah Ann Fisher, an associate professor of medicine at Duke, Greco and colleagues developed a prototype that positions the image analyzer in the pipes behind the toilet. So the analysis is done post flush. So they don't have a camera inside the toilet bowl, thankfully. What could go wrong there, right? We're experts of toilets and toilet technology. She said, we have learned that people really don't like to see anything weird around the toilet bowl. Yeah, I don't want a camera on the toilet bowl or a sensor. The smart toilet system is designed for multiple users in a residential or commercial setting. Okay, listen to this. Just let this sink into your brain a little bit. The technology could be used in hospitals or long-term care facilities, for example, multiple users they're talking about. How are they going to work that out? A fingerprint scanner on the flush mechanism tracks each individual user. My mind is exploding. Okay, can you imagine? And can you imagine people trying to game the system, like paying people to flush the toilet for them so that their fingerprint is showing and not, it just boggles the mind. But hey, it's 2021, people. Greco gets a range of reactions, I'll bet, when she tells people she's developing smart toilet technology. Friends and families laugh about the concept of the smart toilet, she said. So all the possible jokes that have been done on poops, we know. In fact, the researchers are collecting the jokes they hear. We're being very systematic. I guess they'll write a book. In contrast, gastroenterologists who learn of the technology in development are more enthusiastic. There is such a need for removing the uncertainty of the patient's recollection about their bowel movement frequency and appearance. We are seeking to expand through collaboration with additional GI doctors. We want to develop more advanced prototypes, more advanced, okay, and do further validation studies. So, I mean, they already can test, when I say they, the community wastewater, they already test for drugs, narcotics, for, um, you know, they might be, they might be able to tell you, your insurance company, if you're taking the right dosage of your medication. I don't know. Where's this going to go? Ooh, okay. So they are selling it as a digital health tool. There, and this is true, there is an aversion among patients to handling stool or even talking about it. Colleagues tell her that people are more willing to provide a blood sample, which requires a needle, than a stool sample. But a lot of health data is there in the stool, she adds. We think this will empower a lot of research, as well as ding, 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 consumer data gathering. For example, Greco envisions pharmaceutical companies using the technology to detect or monitor any changes in the stool or gut health based on a treatment in development during clinical trials. Oh, yeah. So it made your hair grow, but what happened in your gut? What happened to the microbiome? Furthermore, the technology might empower health conscious consumers who want to track their own gut health. This technology will be a whole new entry in the digital health toolkit. Can you imagine checking your poop on your cell phone? Although not included in the research presented at this year's conference, the developers plan to add a sampling capability. Biochemical analysis of stool samples could provide metabolically relevant information, including stool biomarkers and, there it is, microbiome composition. We've demonstrated it in the laboratory. It will be a part of the technology when developed into a product. This proof of concept study is the first step in a path we are aggressively pursuing. She estimates it will take about 12 to 18 months to develop a prototype for use with patients. We hope to move to a product soon after that. So by next Labor Day, you should see these smart toilets rolling out. I'm looking forward to seeing the future iterations of this tool, Shin said. It could have a role in monitoring important GI diseases and disorders, including irritable bowel and irritable bowel syndrome and inflammatory bowel disease, or even for the detection of alarm symptoms that should not be ignored. I could even see it having a role in preventative health in the future. The technology has been licensed to a spin-off Coprata to develop the product further. Okay. I know it's a lot earlier in the call than we usually do that, but I just have a feeling you guys might have something you want to say about this. So I'm going to allow you guys to unmute and let's just have a little chat just about this one article. Juanita, where'd you go? Okay, so anybody want to chat about this article either by typing in or raising your hands? And I'll keep my eye on it. And if not, we will forge on to the next article. The next article was breathtaking. I'll use that word. And actually not surprising if you published it 5 years ago, but really surprising to me for 2021. So let's take a look at what caught my eye. So this next article, a surprising percentage, and this is in the same news gathering uh, journal. Surprising percentage of biopsy samples found retained in GI endoscopes. Okay. That's really, really bad. on so many levels. So you go to have a colonoscopy or an upper endoscopy, and they do a biopsy, and they clean the scopes, they autoclave them, but there's still tissue in the scope, which means the next patient is not only exposed to whatever was on the scope bacteria-wise, but let's say the previous sample was positive for something, and now you're going to get results. You know, your biopsy might have knocked that previous sample loose. You're going to get results based on the previous example. So there's a false, I mean, you can already have false positives with tissue samples and looking at microscopic specimens. Thank you. Whew. But this adds a whole nother layer. Okay, let me get to the article, because just as surprised as I was, there are a lot of GI, that's gastrointestinal specialists, that are going to be very surprised by this. Here we go. Researchers examining gastrointestinal endoscopes after colonoscopy and esophagogastroduodenoscopy, that's an upper GI, procedures found a startling high, yes, it's startling, high rate of retained biopsy samples in the endoscope accessory channel, or CAP. Investigators found, listen to this, 64% of a total 105 endoscopies featured retained biopsy samples, including 76% of the upper GI scopes and 50% of the colonoscopes. The take-home message would be that retained biopsies are much more common than endoscopists would think. In our institution, many endoscopists guessed 10 to 15%. Now, that's bad enough, don't you think? If the specialist doing your exam has an idea that there are 10% retained specimens from the prior biopsy. But the actual number is 64%. Raising awareness about the high proportion of retained biopsy samples could help change behavior. I guess so. That makes this happen less often. An internal medicine resident in Utah chimed in. Another finding of the study is that there were significantly more retained biopsies found in upper GIs compared to lower GIs. Why is that? You know, because an upper GI scope is smaller than a colonoscope. So why would that be? So they're going to have to study that more. The study is very important, as it points out a significant rate of tissue retention in the biopsy channel at the conclusion of endoscopic procedures. High rate of tissue retention is very surprising, someone else said. Not only does this mean that all tissue submitted for pathologic review, this is another, I didn't think about this one. Not only does this mean that not all tissue is submitted for pathologic review, but also brings to light the need for diligent endoscope processing between procedures. So yeah, what if there's only one little area that is positive, that has positive cells, and that area is stuck to the endoscope, and the person then gets a false negative reading? They actually had a positive test, they had a positive biopsy, they had a positive lesion that was collected by the scope, but it never made it to the lab to be analyzed. Okay, I don't even know if I want to go on to the next page, but let's see, page 2. Because biopsy specimens during GI endoscopy procedures must pass through the device's biopsy channel and cap, Toy and colleagues decided to examine the rate of potentially retained samples. Endoscopists noted that retained biopsies can be found in the accessory channel or cap, but this has not been formally studied. After 55 upper GIs and 50 colonoscopies, each a standard outpatient procedure, the researchers removed the cap and the male end where the cap attaches. They brushed these areas for residual tissue. Next, they applied a new suction trap and cleared the channel using water and suction. So that means they really cleaned it like they should have cleaned it in the first place. They brushed the channel, repeated the water suction procedure, and as a final check, they visually inspected the cleaning brush. They sent any recovered tissue to the path lab. I just am aghast by this information, which, interestingly enough, look at the recommendations for the next article over here in the corner, weighing the pros and cons of disposable duodenoscopes. So yeah, it's going to be expensive to rectify this, but I would say that is a huge pro for going to disposable scopes, knowing that biopsy sample tissue is retained 64% of the time when someone is getting a colonoscopy or an upper GI and an endoscopy, an upper endoscopy. Okay, you can tell I can hardly talk. This is shook me when I read that. So let's see. You can type comments into the chat. You can raise your hand. We're just interacting today with the comments. So let me see. Yeah, if you want to comment on either one of those first two articles, you can unmute yourself, raise your hand. Juanita, welcome from the Great Pacific Northwest. Good morning.
Hang on, I got technical difficulties going on for just a second. And I had a phone call coming in from who none less than our county health department.
No.
And I kind of stepped over in the other room. Comments. Wow, I kind of like this idea. Only because, and I know, first of all, tell me what the word aghast means when you said you were aghast.
Shocked.
Okay. And only because I'm into stools in a good way. Only because before Kangen water, I was extremely constipated. And I just thought that was normal. And at times it would be kind of bloody. And after the water, and from here on out, I don't have any problem. The only problem I have is what I eat and where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
We're down to that science. And as you know, I'm going somewhat gluten-free with the help of a Christian sister in the Lord and soon to be my caregiver as well. Number 3, we're splitting up the hours. And I've noticed in my doctor, David Wall, who practices chiropractic, who I've been going to 3 times a week, and now you see me pretty much back on my feet.
Night and day.
Yeah. I'm waiting for Adrian to invite me out dancing or something on the beach. Hint, hint. You can unmute Adrian. Anyway, now because my stools, like I told the doctor, I've been eating Alaskan shrimp and Alaskan salmon and Alaskan cod. And I get it at the farmer's market, and my friend makes it for me, teaching me how to cook this way. And I told the doctor, which I've taken her to, and she's been greatly relieved without surgery. And I told him that I eat less of this kind of food the gluten-free egg noodles she got me. Just a little bit of butter is all you need, and dill or whatever. But I'm not eliminating. So my body is soaking up this good food that costs more, like you say, your checkbook, pocketbook. But I can get like 6 meals out of one piece of cod, one
Mhm.
piece of salmon. And I had to really train my brain because as a youngster, when I was dating my daughter's sperm donor, his family asked me over to their annual salmon smoking party.
Oh,
And
that's exciting.
yeah, it wasn't too exciting when I said, well, what can I bring? Some tartar sauce. And he says, you do not use tartar sauce with salmon, Juanita. So I didn't take anything. But back to the stools, my neighbor right here, Nolan, 27 years old, was diagnosed with autism at the age of 12. He was conceived in Colorado, and I've talked to the mom in the sister in depth, and conceived. She was on birth control, and he wore a condom. And she doesn't know how Nolan was came about. But as I studied it in the 123 series about autism, you taught about it could be from the womb. And so I was, and she's going to be a part-time caregiver too. Um, but she said that they didn't find out until the age of 12. And I asked her, because he's been drinking this water, which Mr. Hope, I wish you were on here to hear it. But the first glass of water that young man drank a few nights ago, he went from bouncing off the wall, talking to himself, picking up things off the ground that didn't exist, barking. That was his manner of speaking to get my attention. And I've watched how his mother cares for him when she's on the clock compared to when she's mom. And I talk to him the way she does on the clock. So I say, can't, he always says, I'm hungry. Well, autism, like everything else, is the gut brain. So he's constantly saying he's hungry, and I'm constantly saying, you're thirsty. Go help yourself to Kangen water.
Mhm.
And his sister said, do it yourself. And I said, Kaya, he doesn't know how. We have to show him one time and then he'll get it down. And now he knows how to run the machine. He just can't communicate like you and I.
Mhm.
So I asked his mother when she was bringing him home from McDonald's because he was having a fit and wanted that. And she appeased it because I see that's a huge level of nursing. I mean, we all have different levels, but to be the mom and the caregiver is pretty intense 24/7. But I'm learning that it's no different whether you're a family member or a stranger who, like one of my caregivers will be here at noonish with the 7 children. Um, 5 of them were born to, she adopted, fostered and adopted from mothers who were on drugs. And so all these five of the 7 have what they call ADD. And I sent her home the Avicin because I know what it did to another young boy that was busy. And there's strangers coming to the neighbor's house. Must be the church or something, maybe. But I asked mom if Nolan has stool bowel movements and how many a day, and she says he doesn't.
Oh
And I
boy.
said, well, honey, the water's going to help that. You know, he's now talking to me in a language that I understand. Not that it's a language you or I speak, but I understand.
Mhm.
And I continue to give him grapes when he's hungry or whatever the snack is for the day. But I think it has so much to do, once again, with our diet. You know, when he's eating McDonald's and eating, she made me some enchiladas the other night, the whole household here. There's one, two, three, 4 young men between 28 and 33. who are experiencing Kangen water for the first time and seeing benefits. I mean, one of the neighbors we call across the hall, 28 years old, Crohn's. I can't eat this. I can't eat fresh vegetables. I can't. And I'm going, wow, why don't we use the NutriBullet? You know, and he buys the processed, somewhat processed, the naked drink, you know, the greens and the reds.
Mm-hmm.
I used to too. There's a lot of sugar in there that I didn't realize.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other gentleman has an injection that's kept in the refrigerator, and I accidentally threw it away, not knowing what it was. I thought that when we were cleaning out the freezer and putting in the fresh seafood and getting rid of things that I shouldn't have in there, I saw this. So I thought it was from another roommate from another place, and I tossed it. Lucina and I did. And he came home that afternoon and said, went right up, came up here because there's no refrigerator downstairs. That's part of the health issue. There's no running water. They should not be inhabiting that area until it is reconstructed. And so he's using the refrigerator up here. And I said, I threw them away. He says, okay, I'll just go get them. Really calm. I said, it was on the very top of the garbage, like it was the last thing that went in. And I said, was that insulin? And he says, no, but something like it. So I didn't ask, but what would be something like insulin? When I worked in the pharmacy, we kept insulin in the refrigerator.
Yeah, of course, I have no idea what it was. I mean, I have an idea, but what's the question?
Well,
No
I was
question.
going to, it said comments. Now, my question is, what is the difference in a colonoscopy that they say you have to take every year, which I don't, because I'm very normal, and an upper GI, colon upper GI?
Where they put the tube.
So the
So
would be from below.
colon
Okay, got it. And
has
uppers
to
through
go,
my tracheal. Got it.
the upper GI is, yes. So esophago, it sees your esophagus, your stomach, and then down into your the first part of your small intestine, the duodenum. So one of the nicknames for it is EGD, uh, but most people know it as an upper endoscopy.
Right. Well, they call those normal procedures. Like when I finally got a primary care provider through the system that I needed to when this all happened. And she said, we need to schedule you for your 3 yearly exams. And I said, what are those? She says, a pap smear, a mammogram, and a colonoscopy. And I said, hold the phone. For one, these little babies are not getting smashed. I examine myself. I know that I'm okay, right? And two, you've never even asked me if I have bowel movements. Why would you give me a colonoscopy without even asking that? Well, they're routine. I said, nothing's routine in my life like that. I said, I drink this Kangen water, and it was like 7 years ago. And I have very good bowel movements. So, no, you are not doing the colonoscopy, the routine. I said, you could do the pap smear, which they had problems finding it because it hasn't been used in a while. So you don't lose it if you don't use it, but it might be hard to find. So
Yeah,
that's
that's not,
what I
and
wanted to contribute. And, I'm praying here for Mr. Hope to come back on the line. And my doctor, who practices in chiropractic, told me, Juanita, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. It's all up there in my head. And when I had the cranial pinched nerves and I went all haywire, I knew that it was mental. And I know that's what's happening to Mr. Hope. He has nothing physically wrong with him because I know
um,
the power of the EMF. And I've got
We,
my little protector here on my keychain, on my phone, and on my body, and on my wireless device.
yeah, I love that you put him in contact with your friend. That
Yeah,
was amazing. Uh, the natural, using the natural elements of the earth to
and that's
for
this
protection.
beautiful necklace too. This
Hmm.
is a mushroom that he dug from out here, some copper and an opal. And the copper keeps me grounded. I wear it between my breasts, and I can put it at whatever length. I can make it a choker
Hmm.
or put it in my back pocket, and it makes a huge difference. So
Yep.
yeah, we're made from the dust of the earth, so why not put it back into us instead of
That's what the three-pronged approach is all about. All right, so stand by. We're going to go to another article. And let's see. Okay, so that was the last one. So this article is kind of related just because it's talking about the liver, and the liver is part of your gastrointestinal system. So we're back up into the body, not just what comes out. But the 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 thing that interested me about this article is similar to what Juanita said about the connection between the gut and the brain, right? Um, with any disease, there's a connection. So here we're talking about a connection between the liver and the heart. So cardiologists should be more involved in treating non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and non-alcoholic steat, what is that one? Steatohepatitis, right? Okay. So uh, this was an interview between these two people, Seth Baum, Dr. Seth Baum, who is a preventive cardiologist and clinical lipidologist. So when you get your lipid panels, your cholesterol and all that, he's all over it. And they're discussing fatty liver disease and cardiovascular disease with a DO, Dr. Jay Shubrook, who's a board certified family physician. Shout out to the board for certified family physicians. A diabetologist. So he's got another uh, perspective on this. So they're talking about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which in his practice, 80% of people who are obese and have diabetes have some sort of fatty liver disease, somewhere between the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and actually developing non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. So this is that spectrum. From my primary care standpoint, I thought of fatty liver as a big, very general class of disease. We would often see patients present with elevated transaminase levels. Those are your SGOT, SGPT, the tests that they do on a lipid panel, or lipid panel. But then liver function tests, that's what I mean. But then with the dual epidemics of obesity and type 2 diabetes, it became so common that we grew somewhat numb to it in primary care. There's so many people having these abnormalities. We know that non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and its extension into non-alcoholic steatohepatitis are significant contributors to disease. And when he says disease, that's all over the body. And at least in primary care, might be the most common cause of cryptogenic cirrhosis. We're going to find these patients who were never drinkers and who have no other risk factors, yet who go on to cirrhosis. One of the things we want to talk about today is the idea that non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is also a contributor to the spectrum of cardiovascular disease. So Dr. Baum says, unfortunately, I think that most cardiologists are not paying attention to fatty liver. I don't mean that in a bad way. What I'm saying is because there's no drug to be prescribed and the prevalence is so great, perhaps we've given up temporarily until we have therapeutics. Now, I got another journal in the mail yesterday. This was a print one. This wasn't just sent to my email box. This was in my real mailbox, my physical mailbox. Who knows which one is real, quote unquote. So anyway, and it's talking about diet and so many diseases. And I think I'm going to highlight that on Saturday. But just this idea, and this idea came up there that now that COVID came and we don't have, or we didn't have specific treatments for it, physicians didn't know what to do. They just basically threw up their hands. And this is when the naturopaths were able to shine because they get down to the underlying problem in the body, which is inflammation and oxidative stress. And there are some doctors that are really starting to listen to the diet and lifestyle side of the equation. So I just wanted to highlight or this discussion a little bit. But then related to alcohol, there was a fourth article that caught my eye in that journal, and it was called, and this is National Mental Health Month, I think. So, I was very, very happy to bring this article in as well. The end of happy hour. There's no safe level of alcohol for the brain. And I would say for the liver as well, because we are, tagging onto the previous article about non-alcoholic liver disease. We know alcohol affects the liver, but oxidative stress, inflammation, obesity, glycation, too much sugar, too many carbs affects the liver. All right. But as far as alcohol, there's no safe amount of alcohol consumption for the brain. Even moderate drinking adversely affects brain structure and function, according to a British study of more than 25,000 adults. This is one of the largest studies of alcohol and brain health to date. There have been previous claims the relationship between alcohol and brain health are J-shaped, meaning small amounts are protective, those French, but we formally tested this and did not find that to be the case. In fact, we found that any level of alcohol was associated with poor brain function compared to no alcohol. Now, this study was just published online this month. It hasn't been peer reviewed yet, but with 25,000 people in the study, even though it's not peer reviewed yet, and it's not a review study, right? But it does have a significant amount of adults. I mean, we've looked at studies that have, 10 people, 50 people. So this was 25,000 people. How did they do this? I loved how they structured this. They did a functional brain MRI in these 25,000 people. Participants provided detailed information on their alcohol intake. Now we know patients lie, right? So that is one drawback to the study. The cohort included 691 never drinkers, 617 former drinkers, and over 24,000 current drinkers. And after adjusting for all the potential confounders. A higher volume of alcohol consumed per week was associated with lower gray matter in almost all areas of the brain. Alcohol consumption accounted for up to 0.8%, so almost 1% of gray matter volume variance. The size of the effect is small, although greater than any other modifiable risk factor. These brain changes have been previously linked to aging, poor performance on memory changes, and dementia. Okay, so we talked about the French paradox in a previous call, how the French can drink wine and not get cardiovascular disease. But when you look at, and maybe we'll revisit that, but when you look overall at what's happening now, we've got so many global comparisons with statistics, with COVID being a great exposer of trends, of the results of diet staples. The French didn't fare as well as you might have thought through the pandemic as compared to other countries who eat less gluten than they do and have more nutrients in their diets. So let me write that down, because the French paradox. We might take another look at that. Okay, so anyone want to make questions or comments about those last two articles, about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and about there being no safe level of alcohol for brain health? I've got a hand up. What do you think about all that, Juanita?
So I had to tiptoe into the kitchen and find all my alcohol. And I grabbed this one, which I've had for quite a few months, only because when people come over, I want to offer them a beverage. Water is always first on the list, and then we move on to. So I thought, now how much alcohol is in here? And I go along with the French and the Italian, where it's okay to have wine with your meals every single day, right? They're not a bunch of alcoholics. And then my brain went to, okay, what is Dr. Lisa reading from? An American publicized article by Western medicine physicians and researchers that don't do things naturally, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the amount of opiates in our water is more alarming to me than the amount of alcohol in this bottle. Mm-hmm. This bottle says, and it's White Zinfandel from Stone Barn, California, 2017. With the first vintage being produced in the founder's barn, Delicados Family Vineyards has over 90 years of wine growing history throughout California's premier growing regions. And this is where Adrian lives, in this area. This crisp and fruity White Zinfandel has aromas of ripe cherries, which we love here with our apples, and raspberries, light to medium bodied. This wine delivers flavors with sweet watermelon and fresh strawberries. Enjoy with fruit salads, spicy tacos, or, and I'm eating a burrito right now.
You are making me thirsty right now and hungry.
Or on its own. Who's here? Somebody just walked in, and I asked for a 48-hour notice. We'll deal with that in a minute. Enjoy with fruit salads, spicy tacos, or on its own as it's spelled Aperitif. What is that?
Aperitif. It's like an appetizer or
An
something to
appetizer.
whet
Okay.
the palate. Yeah.
And it says that this content alcohol is 10% by volume. What do they mean by volume?
If it's 100 milligram or 100 milliliters, 10% of that is alcohol. So 10 milliliters. So in a cup, uh, just about a cup is 250 milliliters. So 25 milliliters of a cup will be alcohol. So that would be less than an ounce
Oh, less than an ounce. Like
in
a
a
shot
cup
glass
in 8 ounces.
in 8 ounces. So like a little shot glass. So if I drank a glass of wine, and I know that they come in different shapes and sizes, right? For the red wine or the white wine or the pink wine, I could probably, I mean, a friend and I, we were going to have wine Wednesdays where we could wine about the world and drink a little wine. But like she said, maybe 3 people could drink out of this. I don't know.
Well, I cook with it. I don't drink it. I cook with it.
uh,
So I can't help you there.
huh.
All right. So thank you, Juanita, for
Oh wait, I've got one more.
okay.
I was thinking about when you said you got something in your mailbox and you didn't know which one was going to be. And I had the thought, I mean, our kids, the young men that live here, don't even know what a phone booth was.
Yeah.
And so they're not even going to know maybe what a mailbox is one day, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It like um experiences that we've had and that we've lived through and that these kids have no idea. I was in a business conference um a couple days ago, and they were talking about young entrepreneurs versus more seasoned entrepreneurs, and how the young kids, they didn't live through the 70s. They didn't live through the tech bubble in 2000. They didn't live through 2008, or they didn't do business through it. So they don't know how to adjust, and how to function when they're all their world is rocked, their concepts are rocked. And so this um post 9/11, that was like a whole nother generation,
Mhm.
kids that had no idea what. And I've heard for decades that privacy is gone, right? That privacy is an illusion.
Right.
But
I
post
mean,
nine
it's not
eleven,
somebody
that,
invaded my privacy without. I mean, I'm half naked right now.
thank you for that
I mean,
information.
well, I'm just saying that
Yeah, you
the
don't know.
maintenance man just walked right in without
Right.
calling, without a notice, without.
Yeah, that's inappropriate.
And yeah,
Unacceptable.
and
That's the
the
word
other
I want.
day I was in the
Unacceptable.
bathroom and I'm going like, I'm on the toilet. What are you doing? Just walking right in, you know.
but
So
um but you talk about the young people, and
mhm,
it's a different it's a whole different
right.
world. And at some point, um this virtual thing I mean, just this technology that we're doing right now. I remember when Zoom was like really uh high tech, like it was a really out there way to do business and to have meetings. And I remember how slow the Zoom computers were the first couple of weeks when the country was locked down. It was like something that would happen uh, in less than an hour. Now took several hours to happen, but it was because everybody was jumping onto this. Now, oh, my nephew, we can Zoom a little. We don't even call anymore. We Zoom, right? So
Right.
yeah, it's amazing. We live in amazing times.
And
All
it's
right. So
worse than
thank
social
you.
distancing when we don't even talk to people on the phone. I mean, literally. And I'm making a point to call people instead of text because it's just
Yeah.
more of this, one world denomination. Get everybody to be a robot or a communist or a, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that that's where we're going, but it could.
Yeah. Who knows where we're going? I mean, we're talking about AI toilets. I mean, who knows where we're going? But um, I'm glad we're here today. Thank you, Anita, for joining us today. And we had a little bit of discussion about Kangen water, but I don't know if Mr. Hope's going to make it with us. So uh, I think what we will do is just maybe look at his slide deck for a second. So I want to thank everyone that joined us today uh, for call number 393 here on May 26th. So yeah, what is this? Memorial Day. So thank God for all of the veterans, especially those who paid the highest price. I'm very appreciative. Um, and we celebrate you always, not just for a cookout on the last weekend in May, but we always want to honor and thank you for your sacrifice. So, to the families of the veterans who paid the ultimate price, we bless you. All right, so I want to tell you we are on Facebook Live, so the replay will be there, but also we're going to have the replay on our YouTube channel, Kangen Water Radio. I hope you visit us, our YouTube's there, and look for the playlist. If you look for the playlist, you'll see all 15, now 16 videos that we have since we have switched from just the audio technology to actually using video technology. So thank you for joining us. When you do go to those replays, please do all the things. Like us, love us, comment, subscribe. Um, I don't know what the algorithms do, but we love seeing that you're interacting with us even when we're offline. So we appreciate that. And uh, we also do still have the archives available, call topics log of all of the previous 380 plus calls. So you can get that link from us just for the asking at kwnation7 at gmail.com. That's kwnation, the number 7 at gmail.com. And let me see, I think I can look at what Mr. Hope puts up for his PowerPoint. Yeah, there it is. All right. So, Kangen Water Nation, right? Websites. We've got websites in the United States, kangenwaternation.com. We've got websites in a website for our London or our UK area people, kangenwaterlondon.co.uk. For the United Arab Emirates, kangenwaterdubai.com. And we've got the phone numbers that are corresponding. Area code 866-526-4368 is the phone number for reaching Mr. Hope, reaching Kangen Water Radio here in the US. Now, there we go. And we have a London and also London number. For those of you who are overseas, you can use our Kangen Water number +44 0800 086 9793. That's +44 0800-086-9793. You can request at kwnation7@gmail.com. You can request the call topics log. You can request a good food, bad food list. You can request just any of the resources that we make available to you here at Kangen Water Radio. We will be here on Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on this very Zoom. So we'll be back on Kangen Water Radio Zoom on Saturday, and we appreciate and love you all. I don't know if Mr. Hope is available, but I am unable to stop the meeting, but I will stop the recording. So everyone, have a great rest of the week. We love you. Bye-bye.